fortress of Klis is located a short ride from Split, Croatia, overlooking the Adriatic Sea. To visit Klis is to stand on over 2,000 years of history. The fortress is located above the village of Klis. It is 11 kilometers from the Adriatic Sea on a pass that separates the Mosor and Kozjak mountains at an altitude of 360 meters, or 1,180 feet. Tourism has surged in recent years thanks to Klis being used as a setting in the famous TV show. It was the home of the dragons, and one can see how perfect it is, with its lofty crags and open skies. Of course dragons would live in a perch like this. Its position on a jagged hill makes it inaccessible on three sides. From the walls, you can look over the city of Split, and in between, the ancient Roman city of Salona. The structures of the fortress are mostly irregular, as they were constructed to suit the terrain. You can't really see Klis from a distance. The original appearance of the fortress is no longer known due to the structural changes undertaken over the centuries. The present-day stone fortress dates back to the restructuring work carried out by the Venetians in the 17th century. The fortress consists of three parts, enclosed by walls with separate entrances. The strategic importance is shown by the number of sieges and battles fought here since ancient times. The ancient Illyrian tribe of Dalmatia held a stronghold on this spot. Here they commanded the valley until a more powerful neighbor, the Romans, swallowed up their land in 9 current era. The Romans called it Clausura, which later became Klisa, now modern Klis. The Dalmatian tribes and some of their Balkan neighbors revolted in the year 6 and fought a brutal war against Rome for several years. Augustus, the emperor, sent Tiberius to Dalmatia. His legions quickly defeated the remaining rebel forces and chased their fugitive rebel leader Bato around the countryside, finally cornering him at Klis. They laid siege and waited long enough for Bato to seek terms. However, Bato's fellow rebels refused to surrender. Tiberius advanced against the fortress. The Dalmatians lined up outside the wall at the top of the slope and hurled stones and spears down at the Romans. The Romans cut off the defenders from re-entering the fort and chased the survivors into the surrounding woods and killed them. Klis and the nearby Roman town of Salona were to enjoy hundreds of years of Roman peace and prosperity. After the fall of the Roman Empire in early 400s, barbarian forces plundered the region, and it would be over 100 years before Justin I rediscovered Dalmatia as part of the Eastern Roman Empire of Byzantium. After 40 years of war with the Goths in 537, nearby Salona was sacked and burned by barbarian Avars and Slavs in 614. The population fled to Diocletian's fortified palace of Split. Soon after, in about 620, the Avars were driven out by the Croats, who had been invited in by the Emperor Heraclius to counter the Avar threat to the Byzantine Empire. From that point, and for hundreds of years, Klis was to be a major stronghold for the Croats. In 1242, the Mongols had invaded Hungary and smashed the armies of King Bela IV. They came to Dalmatia searching for him and plundering the area around Klis Fortress. Believing he was at Klis, they attacked from all sides with spears and arrows. When this proved entirely ineffective, they dismounted their horses and climbed towards the fort. The defenders launched boulders and debris at them, killing a large number. Enraged, the Mongols looted the houses in the outskirts of the fortress. Learning that the king was not there, they abandoned the attack and rode off to plunder Split and Trogir. They pursued Bela from town to town in Dalmatia. The Croatian nobility and towns of Dalmatia helped hide Bela, and the Mongols eventually left. Bela IV rewarded the Croatian towns and nobility, but not Split, which had not helped him. Over the next few centuries, Klis passed from hand to hand through dynastic succession and marriage. In the early 1500s, Klis became the focal point of the Ottoman Turkish incursions into the Balkans. I cannot begin to outline the hundreds of years of battles and skirmishes between Christian Europe and the encroaching Turkish Empire. For our story, Klis stands along the route that separated Turkish-held Bosnia from the area around Split and its ports. The Uskoks were a collection of refugees from Ottoman rule who migrated towards Klis for sanctuary. It is at this time, in 1513, that a Croatian folk hero, Petar Kružić, steps into history. He was defender of Klis Fortress in 1513 when the Turks first attacked. In 1518, he was made captain of the Klis Fortress defenses. In February 1524, the Turks laid siege with 3,000 men. They held out for over 2 months, while Kružić gathered an army of 1,500 foot soldiers, 60 cavalry, and 40 ships. They landed in Solun and flanked the Turks, utterly destroying them. It didn't seem like Kružić was getting much help from the king, Ferdinand, and was off soliciting help for Klis again in 1532, when a large Turkish army took control of Klis with the help of traders. Kružić returned with 2,000 men from the Italian city of Ancona and took control of the fort, and also another nearby Turkish fort in Solun. King Ferdinand was still doing nothing to help. The oldest remaining building with the dome and minaret was a former square-shaped Turkish mosque built after the conquest of Klis in 1537 on the foundations of an earlier Old Croatian Catholic chapel. After the occupation in 1648, the Venetians pulled down the minaret and converted it into a Roman Catholic church dedicated to St. Vitus. Legend has it that Vitus was the young son of a Roman senator. He became a Christian and resisted his father, including torture, to renounce his faith. He fled with his tutor Modestus and Modestus's wife Crescentia to Rome, where Vitus drove out a demon from the son of the Emperor Diocletian. This did not, however, prevent them all from being tortured to death. We visited on the day of St. Angela Mirici, Virgin, patron saint of disabled and physically challenged people and illness. In 1536, the Turks had gathered a large army and reconquered the Solun fortress and built 2 new fortresses to surround Klis. Again, just in the nick of time, Petar Kružić rides into the scene with 3,000 soldiers, finally sent by Ferdinand I, and 700 Italian soldiers sent by Pope Paul III. Kružić stormed the Turkish strongholds and managed to destroy 2 of them. He was attacking the third when another Turkish force of 2,000 men arrived, causing the German and Italian soldiers to run towards the coast. Kružić died in battle, with Petar Kružić's head on a pike and water running out. The defenders of Klis surrendered to the Ottoman in exchange for their freedom. It would be held by the Turks for the next 100 years. The Venetians tried for decades to take Klis before succeeding in 1669. From 1669, Klis Fortress was in the possession of the Venetians. The Venetians restored and enlarged the fortress during their rule. Napoleon crushed the Venetians in 1797. The Austrians held it for a time. Then the Axis powers during World War II